Thank you to our Patreon members for supporting the channel. The Beavers had agreed to a Thanksgiving truce, and even arranged to meet along the river for a special holiday feast. The feuding had escalated a lot recently, and the Folktales took the lead in offering a ceasefire so they could share a Thanksgiving meal together with their cousins downriver. The Iron Teeth had accepted, and representatives from each family set up camp and came together in peace. The Iron Teeth suspected that the Folktale clan was scared after the Iron Teeth's latest raid, and were looking to begin peace talks to end the fighting and acknowledge Ridgemayar as the superior leader. But for now, the two sides came together amicably to enjoy a Thanksgiving feast with each other. They even brought samplings of their different food stocks for the other clan to try out. And in the end, the Beavers had a really nice time eating and talking and not fighting for a change. After their big meal, the Iron Teeth set out for home. It was a long hike through mostly barren land, but the Beavers had made this trip many times before. At least this way they could burn off all the extra food they just ate. But as they came to the canyon that would take them home, they heard an unusual sound. But the Beavers decided to proceed. But it was a trap! The sound they heard was a chain of bombs going off. The Folktales had lined the canyon with explosives. Ridgemayar tried to hurry his family to safety. But Ridgemayar himself was caught in the blast. The fearless leader of the Iron Teeth had fallen. But how did this happen? Well, the Iron Teeth's raid had caught the Folktales off guard, and they felt strongly that they needed to fix that. And the Folktales had plenty of resources to work with to do it. The Folktale leader Venjo had already noticed a problem with their industry. They had run out of room to expand anymore along the river. They had plenty of space along the reservoir, but the water was slow moving and they didn't think it would work for power. They did have a nice flat area right above the temple that they had cleared out, but of course there was no water up there. So how would they generate power? But Venjo already had it worked out like he always did, and shared a design for windmills that would provide power for the Beavers. And once it was all hooked up, it would power a whole new industry area for the colony. That was already a plan in Venjo's mind, but the Iron Teeth's raid gave these Beavers another reason to pursue industry. Because as the Builder Brigade got to work on the windmills, it didn't take long for Venjo to realize it must have been metal from the old ruins that put the Iron Teeth ahead. So he quickly put his Beavers to work harvesting metal as well. The windmills were coming along, and as expected, they generated power just from the breeze passing by. With so many workers in the Folktales family, it wasn't long before the windmill network was completed and the scrap metal was coming in. Venjo plotted a paper mill and a smelter, and if one, why not two? And just like that, the Folktales had entered the Metal Age as well. The windmills would provide more than enough power to the new buildings, and the Builder Brigade would have them constructed in no time. And the smelters would have plenty of fodder to work with, as the Beavers had already harvested lots of scrap metal. They got the paper mill finished and powered. And that's when the Beavers noticed something interesting. The windmills were moving a bit slower today, not producing as much power. Unlike the water wheels, which would produce about the same amount of power as long as the water was flowing, the windmills would fluctuate depending on the wind. Which I guess makes sense when you say it like that, but as long as the buildings were getting power, maybe it would be okay. And it wasn't long before the Builder Brigade had finished the smelter as well, and the process of converting scrap metal to metal beams began, which meant the Beavers would finally be able to build an explosives factory. This building would produce, you guessed it, explosives. And explosives could be placed anywhere. With the Beaver workforce and resources available to them, the Folktales would be on their road to revenge in no time. Of course, not even Venjo could control the wind. Without wind, they had no power. And right now, apparently, there was no wind. So it was a bit of a waiting game for the Beavers. It's not like they didn't have other things going on, but the Folktales had just agreed to a Thanksgiving meetup with the Iron Teeth, and this was supposed to be their surprise retaliation. So, some wind would be nice. Was there like a wind spirit they needed to pray to, or... Because right now the Beavers were just sitting around waiting for the wind. Thank the wind spirit. The smelters were smelting again. Maybe the Folktales would be able to pull this off after all. These guys had busted their beaver tails to get to this point, but the hard work was about to pay off. This building would take their freshly printed paper and turn it into dynamite. Somehow. And what could the Beavers do with dynamite, you may ask? Well, consider this random bit of land. So annoying the way it just stuck out into the river. But explosives would fix that, because with explosives they could just... Voila! No more annoying bit of land. This was a game changer for the Folktales, and exactly what they needed. Sorry for the noise, temple goers. And just in time for their pretend Thanksgiving ceasefire, these beavers were ready to blow the Iron Teeth away, figuratively speaking. But it wasn't figurative. Ridgemayar had been caught in the blast. The leader of the Iron Teeth was gone. The Iron Teeth were shocked. The Folktales had crossed a line, and the beavers didn't even have time to mourn. They hurried home to tell the family, and to make the Folktales pay. What the Folktales didn't know was that the Iron Teeth had been working on the same thing. They had been increasing their power input and rearranged their industry to include a paper mill. Neither side knew it, but they were both pushing to achieve the same technology. The Folktales had the beaver power and resources to get there quickly, but the Iron Teeth had gotten to metal earlier, so they had a head start. It didn't take long for the mill to be finished and start churning out paper. But what the Iron Teeth lacked, even more than numbers and stocked resources, was science points. Without science, the beavers wouldn't know how to build explosives, even if they had the power and resources to do so. So they were adding more inventors' huts to try and fix that. And they also felt the pressure to man all these extra jobs, so they added more breeding pods. Day by day, the beavers got closer to their goal. The colony was already stretched so thin, but these were some incredibly motivated beavers. If they could just harness the power of explosives, surely that would be enough to put an end to the feud. Of course, it didn't help that beavers kept injuring themselves and needing to use the medical beds to recover, but still, day by day, the beavers got closer to their goal. The settlement had a lot of what they needed. They had plenty of berries growing and plenty more in storage, so the breeding pods could keep spitting out, babies. They had plenty of food and water. They had their plan to use this new technology against the Folktales. They had the element of surprise, or so they thought. The one thing they didn't have was the science, so they kept building more inventors' huts. They would get there eventually, but the Iron Teeth really wanted to get there now. Although they had just been invited by the Folktales to a Thanksgiving truce, so maybe they had more time than they thought. But thanks to the extra inventors' huts, the beavers were ready to begin construction on their explosives factory. They still had to rush if they wanted to get it finished before the Thanksgiving feast, though. The Iron Teeth weren't sure what to make of the Folktales' invitation, but they wanted to be prepared, whatever the outcome of the meetup. Though they certainly weren't prepared for... And now, Ridgemayar was gone, the explosives factory was built, it was the dry season, and the Iron Teeth were here to take their revenge. Hey everyone, Lieutenant Dan here. Thanks for tuning in for this special Thanksgiving episode of Beaver Tales. I hope you all have had a great Thanksgiving, and I just wanted to say that I am very thankful for all of you. Your views, likes, and comments mean a lot to me, so thank you. If you're not part of our Discord community, I invite you to join us. There's a link in the description. Thanks again for watching. You guys have a fantastic day.